Upon arrival in Namaran, Lloyd recognized the weak foundation of the city, composed of sandstone and shale. His surveying skill allowed him to analyze the terrain and formulate a plan to address the erosion issue. Siluria revealed that Cannavaro, admired for his philanthropy, operated a free distribution center for refugees in the city. As Lloyd and Siluria observed Cannavaro's generosity, Lloyd's silent unease stemmed from the embroidered pattern on Cannavaro's coat—the emblem of the undead mastodon, a symbol associated with dark magic and corruption. Despite the apparent goodwill, Lloyd sensed a deeper, ominous purpose behind Cannavaro's actions. In the opulent reception room of Count Namaran's mansion, Lloyd Frontera finds himself in a familiar yet uncomfortable situation as mistaken identities unravel. Count Namaran's initial warmth turns to disappointment as he mistakes Lloyd for his bodyguard, Javier Azran. Lloyd's attempt to correct the misunderstanding only adds to the awkwardness, but he manages to secure a construction contract to solve the city's cliff collapse problem. Reflecting on past experiences, Lloyd emphasizes the importance of contracts for trust and accountability. Meanwhile, Lloyd tasks Javier with tailing Cannavaro, a mysterious figure linked to troubling symbols seen around the city. Lloyd and Javier explored the city the following day and noticed the goat symbol everywhere. It is printed on a variety of goods and available for purchase. Javier shared observations about Cannavaro's seemingly benevolent actions, sparking Lloyd's determination to investigate further. Lloyd insisted on continuing the inquiry, citing the need to gather more information to safeguard their territory. Javier told Lloyd he wanted to investigate where Cannavaro is staying, but it is secured by a magical lock. Javier added that he has a strategy and that, with enough time, he is sure he can probe Cannavaro successfully. In order to keep the slopes from collapsing, anchors are required. To create strong terrain, they must drive anchors well into the earth. Lloyd had planned to employ the wedge lock bolt form, but the issue is that they lack the technology to create such a complex helix. Although it will take some time for the design to reach Corgadus, Lloyd gave it to him first. In the interim, he intends to scan and further research the landscape. As Lloyd traversed the city, his attention was drawn to rumors of a striking beauty at the distribution center, suspecting a connection to Cannavaro's activities. Ultimately, he encountered the mysterious figure, only to realize it was Javier in disguise, adding another layer of intrigue to their investigation. Amidst the commotion, he encounters Javier, now masquerading as Javiela, and briefly interacts with him. Despite his irritation, Lloyd decides to trust Javier's instincts and focuses on his own tasks, including conducting a survey of the city walls. However, his survey uncovers a disturbing pattern of buried skulls, each containing dark magic. Lloyd successfully neutralizes the magic and discovers valuable gems hidden inside the skulls, sparking his newfound enthusiasm for treasure hunting while foiling the Dark Mage's plans. With determination, he dismantled dark magic ensnaring precious gems hidden within human skulls buried underground. Each find brought him joy akin to a farmer inspecting his harvest or stumbling upon unexpected wealth. Despite his excitement, Lloyd maintained a respectful attitude towards the skulls, honoring their troubled past as tools of dark mages. As night fell, he continued his treasure hunt, driven by the fleeting opportunity to collect as many gems as possible before the dark mages noticed their disappearance. His relentless pursuit was rewarded with not only valuable gems but also a significant enhancement of his magical abilities. However, his newfound prosperity came with a sense of responsibility as he solemnly vowed to properly bury the skulls he had collected. Amidst his endeavors, Javier returned, prompting a serious discussion about their suspicions regarding Cannavaro's involvement with the dark magic and the missing gems. Lloyd made fun of Javier's crossdressing while expressing support for Javier's choices. The playful banter between the two continued with Javier firmly denying Lloyd's accusation. Javier then reported his findings during the day. Beneath the mansion, there is a door that led underground. With unwavering trust in Javier's abilities, Lloyd resolved to gather concrete evidence before confronting Cannavaro, ultimately aiming to prevent a crisis similar to the one at Namaran's barrier. The next morning, as Cannavaro discovered the disappearance of the cursed gems, Lloyd's suspicions seemed to be validated, setting the stage for a confrontation that could alter the course of events in the city. In the dimly lit basement beneath Cannavaro's mansion, 31 figures, including Cannavaro himself, gathered around a long table illuminated by a single flickering candle. Cannavaro, troubled by the disappearance of the Noctanium buried underground, addressed the Black Mages, expressing concern over the unforeseen turn of events. Cannavaro urged his comrades to remain focused on their ultimate goal, proposing an alternative plan to activate the barrier manually instead of relying on the skulls. While some doubts lingered among the Black Mages, Cannavaro assured them of his protection and outlined a strategy to proceed with the ritual safely. Meanwhile, Javier, disguised as Lady Javiella, seized an opportunity to investigate Cannavaro's basement. He pretended to slip his hands, spilling a bucket of water on himself. Seeing Javiella's predicament, the workers guided him to the mansion to change his wet clothes. Javier went to the door to the basement. While hiding, Javier saw Cannavaro enter the door. Javier, meticulously replicate the magical lock pattern to gain access to the second floor. However, his exploration was abruptly interrupted by the unexpected presence of a zombie lurking beyond the door, signaling the possibility of darker secrets hidden within the depths of Cannavaro's mansion. Javier encounters a headless zombie, swiftly dispatching it with a powerful blow before facing a horde of headless zombies pouring out of open doors. He systematically defeats the zombies, revealing his proficiency in combat as a swordmaster. Javier confronts the mortician involved in Cannavaro's dark deeds, extracting information about the creation of zombies and their connection to Cannavaro and the trading post. Learning of the mortician's heinous crimes, including the use of refugees as experimental subjects, Javier inflicts punishment while extracting crucial details about their operations. Javier decides to confront Cannavaro and the Dark Mages at the trading post alone, prioritizing swift action over informing Lloyd and Count Namarin to prevent their escape. With determination, Javier sets out to confront the perpetrators of these dark deeds. The trading post, usually bustling with activity, is eerily silent when Javier arrives. Despite the absence of any visible threats, he senses something amiss and explores further, only to find the premises completely deserted. Suddenly, a deafening noise reverberates from all directions, accompanied by a draining of mana that leaves him weakened but still conscious, thanks to his mastery of Azran technique. Exiting the trading post, he discovers a massive, sinister barrier surrounding the city of Namarin, draining the life force of its inhabitants. As he rushes to aid those affected, he realizes the gravity of the situation and the imminent danger posed to everyone within the city walls, including his ally Lloyd. As Lloyd sees the barrier, a sense of urgency grips him as he realizes the gravity of the situation unfolding. With determination fueling his actions, he steels himself to confront the Dark Mage responsible for Namarin's barrier. The Dark Mage is in the middle of casting his spell when Lloyd appears out of nowhere. Despite his irritation at Lloyd's hideous face, he remained motionless and ignored him. Lloyd asks the Dark Mage questions but the Dark Mage did not answer him. The Dark Mage knows that if he moves even a little, the casting of the barrier will be affected. Seeing that the Dark Mage is ignoring him, Lloyd charges forward. He swings his steel shovel with all his might, aiming to incapacitate the Dark Mage and unravel the barrier's mystery. Yet, despite his calculated strike, the Dark Mage remains unscathed, protected by an unseen force. The circumstance makes the Black Mage feel smug. He is certain that the spell Cannavaro casted on him will prevent Lloyd from being able to harm him. Lloyd can tell that the Dark Mage is confident, but he also understands that the mage must be hurting. Upon noticing the gem within the Dark Mage's possession, Lloyd attempts to draw mana from it, just like he did to the gems from the skulls. However, the absorption didn't work. As Lloyd grapples with this unexpected turn, a revelation dawns upon him. The key to dismantling the barrier lies in the gem adorning the Dark Magician's neck. Meanwhile, within the town hall of Namarin City, the philanthropic facade of Cannavaro crumbles to reveal a dark, malevolent force. With a chilling smile, Cannavaro revels in the chaos unleashed by the barrier, carving cryptic patterns upon a fallen angel sculpture as he eagerly anticipates the arrival of Hell Knight. Lloyd, in the meantime, digs where the Dark Mage is standing with his shovel. The barrier prevents the Dark Mage from moving, leaving him defenseless. At last, he lost his balance and collapsed on the ground. As soon as the Dark Mage moves a little, the spell on the gem backfires. The gem's purpose was altered, shifting its focus from sustaining the barrier to draining mana from its creator. Namarin's barrier trembles, its once foreboding black hue transforming into shimmering iridescence. Cannavaro senses that something went wrong with the spell. A sense of unease grips Cannavaro as he realizes the barrier's malfunction. Even if he believes there is not enough mana, he is adamant about carrying out the summoning. Seeing the mayhem outside, Siluria Namarin makes the decision to assist those in need. The jewelry she is wearing gives her confidence that she can handle a magic charm that prevents the loss of mana. She saw Cannavaro performing a ritual in front of a sculpture of a fallen angel at the town hall. Cannavaro is shocked to see someone who is able to stand up while the barrier spell is depleting mana from everyone. Later on, he realizes that Siluria's necklace is the cause of this. Cannavaro casts a fire spell towards Siluria. To his surprise, Siluria is able to defend by casting her own fire spell. Cannavaro is taken aback by the power of Siluria's magic. The attack is at the level of an imperial mage. A big explosion follows and Cannavaro is injured. Cannavaro, with a sinister smile on his face, swiftly finishes the incantation to summon Hell Knight in a bid to turn the tide of battle. When Siluria learns about the Hell Knight, she is confused. Taking advantage of the situation, Cannavaro draws a dagger and points it in Siluria's direction. Javier shows up, cutting Cannavaro's arm. However, a menacing light came from the crimson markings engraved all over the statue. A powerful lightning descended from the sky, and then the statue burst. Fragments scattered in all directions. Siluria casts a barrier to shield the people from the debris. With a menacing grin, Cannavaro seems to be satisfied with everything. With the Hell Knight being summoned, everyone else will die. As the shattered statue and debris fell apart, black mist flowed over the display area of the marble statue. In that mist, a crimson gleam flickered. Cannavaro's expression contorted. His eyes desperately scanned Hell Knight's entire body. Hell Knight, who had finally revealed itself from the black mist. However, there was a problem with it. It wasn't riding any mount, and it had one arm and one leg. Cannavaro is bewildered. The cause was the problem with the mana absorption of the barrier. Because of that, he couldn't gather enough mana to properly summon Hell Knight. In the dimly lit town hall, the eerie echoes of metal against metal filled the air as Hell Knight, shrouded in a veil of black magic, clashed with Javier, their swords flashing with deadly intent. Hell Knight, resplendent in his dark armor, exuded an aura of malevolence as he swung his enormous sword with supernatural strength, each strike threatening to shatter the very foundations of the room. Siluria helped by casting spells from time to time. Hell Knight, annoyed by Siluria's intervention, dashed forward towards her. Javier seized the opportunity when the Hell Knight was distracted and landed a powerful mana blast. The Hell Knight was hit and turned into a pile of ashes. Cannavaro couldn't even blink his eyes as he stood there with his mouth wide open. From his perspective, the Hell Knight he had struggled so hard to summon had been defeated just like that. He looked at the silver-haired knight who was approaching him with a helpless expression on his face. A long sword was now aimed at him. Just as he was about to give in to despair, his gaze fell on something behind Javier. Unknowingly, Cannavaro's lips curled upward. Where his gaze had landed behind Javier, the pile of ashes was regenerating and rising on its own. In an instant, Hell Knight's black skeletal helmet was restored. What had shattered and crumbled turned out to be a lie. The enormous two-handed sword that had fallen to the ground wriggled up into the air and landed in his hand. Mana with a sinister aura surged from the enormous sword. At the same time, laughter erupted from Cannavaro. The clash between Javier and the Hell Knight, Xeorexius, intensified as their swords met in a storm of sparks. Despite the ferocity of their duel, Javier couldn't help but exchange a few words with his formidable opponent. Xeorexius, the first corps captain that serves the ruler of Hell, with his intimidating presence and crimson gaze, acknowledged Javier's skill with a hint of respect. But Javier, while holding his own in the battle, couldn't find joy in the conflict. He reflected on the weight of their confrontation, recognizing the burdens that came with willingly engaging in such a formidable fight. Their battle unfolded with a series of lightning-fast exchanges, the clash of their weapons sending shockwaves rippling through the hall. Javier's blade danced through the air with fluid grace, striking at Hell Knight's defenses with precision and agility. Yet, for every strike that Javier landed, Hell Knight responded with equal ferocity, his greatsword carving through the air with terrifying speed and power. As the duel unfolded, Javier marveled at the Hell Knight's unorthodox fighting style. Despite lacking any formal sword technique, the Hell Knight's relentless swings made it difficult for Javier to evade. Faced with the Hell Knight's relentless assault, Javier searched for an opportunity to strike back. Aware of the Hell Knight's limited mobility due to his injured legs, Javier realized that his best chance lay in exploiting this disadvantage. With the Hell Knight grounded, his only viable option was to launch a surprise attack from below, capitalizing on his limited range of movement. With determination, Javier prepared to seize the moment and turn the tide of the battle in his favor. As the Hell Knight emerged from underground, Javier parried the attack and launched his own counterattack. But instead of defending against the attack, the Hell Knight grabbed Javier's ankle. Javier, aware of what the Hell Knight is trying to do, tried to gather his mana and use body reinforcement. But the mana that's flowing out of the Hell Knight is blocking Javier's mana. Javier was hurled to the ground by the Hell Knight with success. He repeatedly slammed Javier to the ground. The Hell Knight picked up his sword and swung it in Javier's direction, hoping to finish the fight. But just when all seemed lost, a sudden interruption shattered the tension, as Lloyd, a mysterious figure wielding a steel shovel, emerged from the shadows, holding Cannavaro hostage. The Hell Knight, instead of focusing on Javier, turned his attention to Lloyd with a mixture of surprise and bewilderment. As he witnessed Lloyd's appearance and manner of speech, he deduced that he is also from Hell. He didn't doubt that Lloyd would actually kill Cannavaro. In the Hell Knight's perspective, Lloyd isn't bluffing. Not only will Lloyd cut off Cannavaro's head, he's capable of even grinding it and drinking it. And there's also that otherworldly feeling that the Hell Knight is sensing from Lloyd. Lloyd, undeterred by the menacing glare of his adversary, calmly explained his strategy, exploiting the connection between the Hell Knight and Cannavaro. By threatening to kill Cannavaro, the one who had summoned the Hell Knight, Lloyd hoped to force the demon to surrender. However, the Hell Knight attacked Lloyd, hitting Cannavaro in the process. A surprising revelation was made by the Hell Knight. The summoner's death would not instantly end the summoning. Reverse summoning will take 40 minutes, which is sufficient time to completely destroy the city. Quickly taking advantage of the brief diversion, Javier raised his silver longsword in attack mode. When the attack was parried by the Hell Knight, Javier was flung back several meters. Lloyd realized that Javier was already worn out from the previous battle. He decided to draw the aggro of the Hell Knight and ordered Javier to stand down. Lloyd extended his shovel and unleashed his most powerful move without hesitation, the triple explosion. For a moment, the sheer force of the triple explosion was truly immense. The sudden burst of energy landed on the target. However, the Hell Knight ignored his attack and continued charging towards Javier. At the same time, Lloyd extended both of his hands and grasped the Hell Knight's pelvis and legs. The balance of the Hell Knight wavered ever so slightly. In response, the Hell Knight issued a warning, cautioning Lloyd about the dangers of coming into contact with a being from Hell. The demon ominously described how the dark mana that permeated its essence could corrupt and consume the heart of anyone foolish enough to touch it, leading to certain death. Unfazed by the dire threat, Lloyd met the Hell Knight's warning with a nonchalant retort, revealing that he had already purified the black mana multiple times. Caught off guard by Lloyd's fearless demeanor, the Hell Knight could only utter a bewildered exclamation in response, his confidence momentarily shaken by the human's unexpected defiance. The Hell Knight tried to free himself from Lloyd's grasp, but Lloyd clung to him like a tenacious octopus. The Hell Knight kept on trying to attack Lloyd, grabbing Lloyd's head, swinging his sword backwards, but all of those attacks were dodged by Lloyd. Seizing the opportunity created by Lloyd's intervention, Javier twisted his body and unleashed a devastating strike with his longsword. The force of the blow caused the Hell Knight's entire body to convulse violently. Yet, even as the Hell Knight staggered under the onslaught, he retaliated with frenzied fury, swinging his greatsword wildly in all directions. Javier met each attack with precision and skill, exploiting the Hell Knight's vulnerabilities with calculated strikes. As Lloyd observed the intense battle unfolding before him, his mind raced with thoughts and concerns. He noted Javier's increased speed and agility, a testament to his growing prowess in combat. However, despite his improvement, Javier still struggled to match the supernatural mobility afforded by Hell Knight's teleportation abilities. With each passing moment, Lloyd felt the strain of his efforts to purify the ominous black mana emanating from Hell Knight's form, pushing him closer to his limits. As the gravity of the situation weighed heavily on him, Lloyd realized the urgency of their predicament. If they continued on their current course, defeat seemed inevitable. In the midst of the chaos, he grappled with the pressing question of what actions to take next. As Lloyd's mind raced through various possibilities, a message panel appeared from the system, providing Lloyd with a clue as to how to get out of his current situation. The system urged Lloyd to sing. Lloyd hesitated for a brief moment, contemplating the significance of this unexpected command. Though uncertain of how singing could possibly turn the tide of the battle, Lloyd trusted in the system's guidance. With resolve in his heart, he took a deep breath and began to sing. His voice, raw and impassioned, filled the air with a melody that seemed to resonate with the very essence of his being. Lloyd sang with all his might, his tone-deaf voice echoing through the hall. Though his singing may have been less than melodious, it served to further disorient the Hell Knight, adding to the chaos of battle. Lloyd rejoiced, realizing that his singing was indeed having an impact on the Hell Knight, providing an opportunity for Javier to strike. However, to his surprise, he noticed Javier also covering his ears, evidently affected by the discordant melody. Perplexed by this unexpected turn of events, Lloyd couldn't help but wonder why even Javier was reacting to his singing. Meanwhile, amidst the chaos of battle, memories flooded Lloyd's mind, revealing a lifetime of encounters where his tone deafness had brought unexpected consequences. From being chastised by his music teacher to being mistaken for a demon during a church service, Lloyd had endured countless humiliations due to his lack of musical talent. Yet, in this moment, he realized the value of even his most seemingly insignificant skill. Despite his shortcomings, Lloyd's singing had become a weapon in the fight against evil, proving that in a world where every skill had its purpose, even being tone-deaf could serve a greater cause. Lloyd launched a backflip move that sent the Hell Knight crashing to the ground. Javier finally recovered and used his mana to cover his ears. He followed up with an attack of his own. Casting an aura blast, he swung his blade toward the Hell Knight who lay on the ground. The Hell Knight was destroyed in the ensuing massive explosion. Javier was aware that it was not quite over, though. Javier kept his blade pointed at the heap of the Hell Knight's ashes while maintaining a serious expression. Lloyd questioned Javier's claim, wondering if the demon might really rise again. Javier related the story of his last encounter, describing how the Hell Knight had been defeated before coming back to life. Lloyd took in the situation and confirmed that there was a lot of mana still present near the ashes. Even the body that had just been converted to dust released a good deal of mana. Lloyd came to the conclusion that the Hell Knight had not been completely annihilated. Javier stepped forward, positioning himself between Lloyd and the pile of ashes that had once been the Hell Knight. He urged Lloyd to stand back, a note of caution in his voice. However, Lloyd remained steadfast, expressing confidence in their victory. Despite Javier's skepticism, Lloyd remained unwavering, even challenging Javier to a bet, confident in the outcome. Picking up his shovel, he outlined the terms. If the demon survived, Lloyd would serve as Javier's subordinate for a year, but if it perished, Javier would dress up as Javiela upon their return to their county. As Javier agreed to the bet, Lloyd raised his steel shovel. He released a full-powered triple explosion that blew off the hall's ceiling. His mana rapidly depleted, and dizziness overwhelmed him. Determined to press on, he suppressed the discomfort and accessed his skill window, activating Supercharge to draw in mana from the surrounding area. Meanwhile, Javier observed in awe, realizing that Lloyd was absorbing the Hell Knight's formidable mana. In response, the Hell Knight scoffed at Lloyd's efforts, dismissing them as futile. Despite his determination, Lloyd soon felt the overwhelming backlash of absorbing such immense power, coughing up blood as the strain took its toll. Yet, undeterred by the setback, Lloyd persisted, recognizing that absorbing the mana was their only viable solution. With unwavering resolve, he pressed forward, determined to see the outcome through to the end. Meanwhile, Javier and Siluria sprang into action, lending their support to Lloyd by placing their hands on his back. With Siluria's healing spell, they worked to alleviate Lloyd's injuries and mitigate the effects of the backlash, standing by his side in solidarity. After a grueling battle, they finally succeeded in exorcising the Hell Knight. Lloyd, drained of his strength, collapsed to the ground, overcome with exhaustion. Concerned, Siluria rushed to his side, calling out to him with worry evident in her voice. However, Javier reassured her, explaining that Lloyd's collapse was a customary part of his victory ceremony. Despite his attempt to ease her concerns, Siluria couldn't help but express her worry, admonishing Javier for his seemingly nonchalant attitude as Lloyd's escort knight. Amidst their exchange, a system message abruptly appeared in front of Lloyd, announcing their victory over the core commander of Hell, Xeorexius. The message conveyed the King of Hell's amazement at his incredible feat and expressed a desire for his presence. Cannavaro was arrested and transported to prison by the knights that were sent by the kingdom. However, Lloyd's joy is tempered by the realization that the recent crisis has delayed construction due to the citizens' weakened state. Reflecting on the situation, Lloyd couldn't help but lament the missed opportunity to mitigate the workforce shortage by involving their county's workers. However, he quickly reprimanded himself for such negative thoughts, recognizing the need to focus on finding solutions and generating income amidst the challenges. Lloyd's thoughts were interrupted by a system message. It informed him that his mana heart skill option, Undead Domination, had been upgraded to an individual skill due to absorbing a portion of Xeorexius's power. Intrigued by this development, Lloyd contemplated the implications, considering the newfound potential for utilizing undead labor without the previous limitations and requirements. This revelation sparked hope for a solution to their labor shortage and a means to overcome the obstacles they faced in the construction efforts. Lloyd found himself grappling with the perplexing nature of his new complement, demon-possessed atrocious singer. The dubious title left him questioning its intent. Was it truly a compliment, or a subtle jab veiled in sarcasm? As he mulled over its significance, a sudden interruption shattered his contemplation, a persistent knocking at the door. Opening it revealed an unexpected sight: headless skeletons standing before him. Lloyd's curiosity piqued, he inquired about their presence and was met with a surprising revelation. These apparitions were once tormented souls, robbed of their corporeal forms by the sorcery of hell. Sensing a power emanating from Lloyd, they sought refuge, hoping to regain physicality. Realization dawned upon Lloyd as he connected their arrival with his newly upgraded skill, Undead Domination. The skeletons confirmed his suspicion, expressing gratitude for their newfound bodies. Lloyd's memory stirred as he recalled the skulls he had laid to rest in Namaran, realizing his role in appeasing their vengeful spirits. Offering them a chance for redemption, Lloyd welcomed them into his service, dubbing them the Skeleton Worker Squad. Lloyd was happy that they did not require any material supplies because it meant he could provide Frontera County with free labor to help with building. Meanwhile, Javier, observing the scene, opted to disengage, retreating to the solace of sleep, indifferent to Lloyd's newfound endeavors. The Ghost Skeleton Worker Squad is like a never-ending spring in terms of productivity. They never sleep, they never get tired, and they never eat. For Lloyd, the nicest part is that they do not even demand pay. When Count Namaran arrived to inspect the construction site, he fainted despite having regained his strength. Lloyd rationalized the skeleton's unexpected appearance by claiming he is a brilliant summoner. Winter arrived, snow fell, and the finished anchors showed up. The building of Namaran slope stabilization has reached its last, almost finished stage. Javier, lost in reminiscence, recalled the comforting touch of Siluria's hands as they supported Lloyd. His reverie was abruptly interrupted by Siluria's sudden appearance. Javier, caught off guard, responded courteously, directing her attention to Lloyd for the construction report. However, Siluria had a different purpose. She expressed a desire to learn from Javier's mana utilization technique, hoping to enhance her own magical abilities. Javier, understanding her request, agreed to impart his knowledge to her. Meanwhile, Lloyd watched their interaction, his thoughts drawn to the tragic events depicted in the novel. In the novel, Siluria met her demise, leaving Javier heartbroken and alone. The words of the novel echoed in his memory, haunting reminders of the doomed prophecy that once shadowed Javier's existence. In that narrative, Javier was condemned to solitude, destined to face life's challenges alone, his heart burdened by a curse that repelled companionship. The novel painted a bleak picture of endless battles and inevitable demise, a fate seemingly sealed by the very strength that defined him. Yet, as Lloyd looked upon the present scene, a sense of reassurance washed over him. Here, in this timeline, Javier wore a genuine smile, his heart lightened by the company of friends. Lloyd himself stood beside Javier, a steadfast companion in their shared journey. The construction project had reached its conclusion, marking the culmination of Lloyd's efforts. Grateful for the generous payment and warm reception from Count Namarin, Lloyd expressed his heartfelt gratitude. Despite the cheers and accolades from the people of Namarin, Count Namarin made one final proposal to Lloyd: to become his son-in-law and inherit Namarin. However, Lloyd politely declined, steadfast in his determination to fulfill his own ambitions. As the heir of the Frontera family, he had his sights set on ruling his own territory. Instead, he pointed to Siluria, acknowledging her as a worthy successor who would soon become the continent's greatest mage. With their farewells exchanged, Lloyd and his companions prepared to depart. Yet, Javier's lingering gaze toward Siluria did not go unnoticed by Lloyd. Sensing his reluctance to leave, Lloyd offered Javier the option to stay in Namarin, promising better opportunities and rewards. Javier, however, remained resolute in his allegiance to the Frontera family, rejecting Lloyd's offer without hesitation. Despite Lloyd's attempts to sway him, Javier remained steadfast, affirming his loyalty to his knightly duties. With their paths set, Lloyd and his companions embarked on their journey back to Frontera County, leaving behind the bustling city of Namarin and the memories of their recent endeavors. With newfound wealth, Lloyd embarked on his journey back home, accompanied by his skeleton battalion. As they neared their destination, Lloyd reminded Javier of their bet. Javier is to dress as Javiella when they return to their territory, much to Javier's chagrin. As dawn broke, Count Frontera eagerly anticipated his son's return. As Lloyd emerged from the carriage, he reassured the Count about the presence of the skeleton worker squad, explaining their role in the construction project. However, the Count's unease lingered, especially when Javier, dressed as Javiella, emerged from the carriage. The Count struggled to comprehend the situation but eventually resigned himself to the unexpected turn of events. Count Frontera embraced Javier warmly, expressing sympathy for the ordeal he endured. Despite Javier's attempts to clarify the situation, Count Frontera reassured him, accepting his uniqueness with an open mind. Meanwhile, Lloyd observed the scene with amusement, unable to contain his laughter at Javier's predicament. Tears of mirth welled up in his eyes as he relished the light-hearted moment. Inwardly, Lloyd reveled in the sense of contentment that enveloped him. Returning home had brought him peace of mind, coupled with the substantial wealth that promised a life of leisure. He envisioned carefree days ahead, filled with relaxation and indulgence. Yet, his tranquility was short-lived. The arrival of a special envoy from Queen Alicia Termina Magintano heralded the onset of new challenges and responsibilities. With the issuance of a royal decree, Lloyd found himself thrust back into the throes of duty, summoned to join a special envoy bound for Asfahan without delay. As the weight of his new assignment settled upon him, Lloyd braced himself for the trials that lay ahead, knowing that his days of leisure would have to wait.